Hey, good morning to those of you out there on the West Coast. Good afternoon to those of you here on the East Coast with me. A little wet outside. It's less sunny than I like, but the good news about rain is that it actually helps me on a particular project I'm working on. Just for the fun of it, as we're getting started, I'll tell you I'm digging a 120-foot ditch from my house, like that far away from the house, so I can get the water. And I'm in the middle of it. And I just looked outside. It's just ponds and lakes everywhere on my grass. I'm like, but at least the rain can show me that. So if I don't get the sunshine, the rain, I'll spin a positive look at the rain. Hey, we're going to get started here in just 1 second. I did want to share a tip for those of you showing up early and on time, because I like doing that when I remember. But Harvey Mackay, and I worked his seminars multiple times, really just as a way to get in free. But I love his book, and this book's called Dig Your Well Before You're Thirsty. And I really want to encourage you to read that book, get that book, and understand it. It aligns to what we're going to be talking about today, which is going into LinkedIn, finding federal buyers, et cetera. And the idea behind Dig Your Well Before You're Thirsty means don't try to network for today or tomorrow's need. Network for next week and next month's need, next year's need. When you're building a network, you want that network to last. And a network is just people, right? That we have a level of relationship at this level, right? We're not at strategic relationships, but your network's all the people you know, and you can pick up the phone and just refresh that relationship. Well, those are people you hope to be with you for life. Certainly in the professional world, you want them for your professional life, and in your personal life, generally you want them for your whole life. And so keep that in mind as you move forward. That when we're talking about today's training, or we're looking long term and digging our well before we're thirsty. We want to make sure that we see the long-term picture, that these relationships that we're building with each other are for that long term. Really great to see you guys engaging in chat. Thank you for doing that. When you engage in chat, first off, I get to learn a little bit about you, and so does everybody else. Like, for example, I learned that there's storms in Texas, right? I didn't know that, Elizabeth, until you just said that. And I get to see where people are at. I get to see whether you're a hub zone or a woman-owned small business, a veteran, whether you're selling this or that. The one thing I would encourage you is chats are really kind of quick things. So they'll go by fast as we have more people join the lives. Okay, but speaking of lives, let's get started in today's training. Today, I'm going to be talking about finding federal buyers on LinkedIn. This is a really important topic to me. Obviously, we're here on LinkedIn Live, so this is where I do my lives. I just happen to restream it out to YouTube and Facebook. And so if that's where you're coming from, welcome. But LinkedIn is where I live and breathe, and you'll see a little bit about why today. One of the questions I get asked in government contracting all the time is, how do I find federal buyers? This makes sense, right? How do I find buyers? Even real estate agents, if you think about that, how do I find buyers? Any of us who are selling something, we're trying to figure out, how can I find buyers who want to hear about what I sell and who I can talk to? If I'm in the federal side, I'm trying to find federal buyers who are in this particular agency or that agency, or in this particular office within an agency. And we'll talk a little bit about that, and I'll show you when I go into a live demo. But I get that question all the time. How do I find federal buyers? The answer is there's tons of ways. I'm going to show you one way, but there's tons of ways. You can go to a conference. You could, an example is HHS has its entire phone directory online. You can go there and find people. You could listen to the HHS, if I stick with that example, you could listen to them talk and see who's talking out there at conferences or other events, or just go on their website and you can start finding people. I go into large primes. If we just take federal buyers out and that question out to teammates as well, I'll go into a large prime like Booz Allen. I really love this because I can go in, find maybe a blog that they write on AI and say, I'm trying to do an AI related play. I can go in there and see that. And at the bottom, it'll say, oh, John Smith also wrote these other ones. And then you click on John Smith and you say, here's John Smith's peers throughout Booz Allen who are all talking about AI or all talking about healthcare or whatever it is. And so you can start finding a thread. There's many ways you can meet federal buyers, but today we're going to be talking about social selling. And this is a new way of selling since social media came around, right? So for hundreds of years, selling was much more of a in-person, take you out to coffee, lunch, or come into your office and we hang out there and we're talking. That's really not how sales is done. That's one small aspect now of sales, but the primary leader of sales is social selling. And the reason that is so important, social selling, is because the buyer can be so much more informed about us and about our products and services before they ever talk to us. I get people who come to me and say, I've been watching your stuff for several years, and I don't even know their name, right? They're telling me for the first time I'm seeing them, but they've been watching me for several years. And I have built up trust with them over that time without ever knowing them. So when they come to me, they feel like they've known me for a long time. And that's social selling on the buyer's side. Federal agencies do the same thing. They go out and they can go to the internet and they can find anything they're looking for pretty much out there. And so today we're going to be talking about LinkedIn in particular and how that aspect of social selling can help you find buyers online. So go ahead and put LinkedIn Rocks on the chat if that's what you're looking for today. If you don't know who I am, hey, how did I miss a slide? Oh, I didn't. Just really quick, this is how I'm going to break down today's training. I got a lot to talk about. And so I want to talk about social media overview in 2025 and just what are the platforms. By the way, a little nihilism. I don't know if you see my wedding ring there, but it's a Clotter ring. So an Irish wedding ring. And depending on which finger and which way you point it, it means something different. And a minute ago, I was saying I wasn't married. I'm like, what am I doing? I got it on wrong. Okay, so I'm going to cover social media really quick. I want to talk about visibility as a two-way street, right? It's not just about finding federal buyers. It's what are they going to do when you're finding them? How federal buyers are using LinkedIn. I just want to do a high-level thing there that talks about, helps you understand that buyers are doing something themselves, right? We're trying to find them. You're trying to find them, but they're doing something themselves. And what are they doing on LinkedIn? So I want to give you some ideas to think about, and you can come up with your own. The fourth thing I'm going to do is go live into LinkedIn, do a demo of finding program office buyers. I want to show you how I do it. If I'm looking to go into a new office, I can find hundreds of people very, very fast. And if you follow the steps I'm going to show you, you can do it as well. It's just a process, right? And if I have enough time, I'm going to give you simple steps to engage the buyers once you find them. Like, how do you start turning it into a relationship? How do you start warming it up to be able to maybe have a meeting? At the very least, I'll just show you the screen if I don't have time. But if I have time, I'll walk through and explain it. If you don't know who I am, my name is Neil McDonald. I'm the president of the GovCon Chamber of Commerce. I am co-founder of GovCon in a Box, a tool where we help you find and win opportunities. Super excited about that as we continue to roll it out. You can check it out yourself. If you haven't connected with me on LinkedIn, definitely do so. This is where I share all sorts of government contracting information. I've been a government contractor myself for 20 years. After I got out of the Army, I was a small business government contractor, worked on almost every single agency out there. And since 2018, I've been teaching people like you that government contracting is not a secret. It's just a process. When we follow a process A to Z, we have repeatable, predictable results. This is what I want for you. Make sure you sign up for our government contracting success newsletter right here on LinkedIn. It's where I share a lot of great information out there that'll be helpful to you. And then the last thing is tomorrow's training is on being visible. You need to be visible to federal buyers. So when they're looking for companies like yours, they can find you. Literally, they're saying, how can I find small businesses that do such and such and such, right? And if I look at some of those who are in the chat, are you making it easy for them to find you? Tomorrow, I'm going to talk about visibility in there. Okay, I can already tell I'm a little bit behind where I wanted to be. I'm going to be picking up a lot of speed as we go forward because I want to spend the most amount of time maybe in LinkedIn showing you where the federal buyers are. So the first thing is just understanding, why do I say LinkedIn? Why am I leaning so heavily into LinkedIn? And I figured I'd give you a social media platform overview. Each one of these things are called platforms, and there's always new ones dropping around. But basically, these are the ones we should all have familiarity with. Facebook is out there. It's been out there forever. But the reality is that's more, if you think about sales, that's more for trying to sell consumers. So you're trying to sell little trinkets. Like I got this awesome mug from my colleagues. Sometimes I wonder if my boat is thinking about me too, because I got a sailboat and I wish I was out there. I mean, really, I'm happy that I'm here with you. But on Facebook, that's where I share that mug and say, hey, look what I got. That's where the people who are selling it might sell it because it's more of a consumer based. It's not business to business based. And that's where we're at, is the ultimate business to business, or business to government is what it's called, right? Twitter is just a noise factory. These are my opinions, right? Facebook is for personal things, connecting with my old high school or grammar school buddies. Twitter is where I just want to rant and rave out there. TikTok is used for a lot of different things that is moving, but it is such a short set of content out there, but it's more of a content delivery platform. It is not a dialogue. It's not about building relationships, and neither is YouTube. I have a lot of videos out on YouTube training on government contracting, 1,500 videos, I think at last count. But there's no relationships I can have out there. It's why I try to drive people from YouTube over to LinkedIn. I don't want followers on YouTube. What I want is people in my network that I can engage with, and I can help you, you can help me, and life's great for everybody. And so that's why I'm focused on LinkedIn, is because LinkedIn is a professional network. It's always been kind of seen that way. Even in the very beginning, when LinkedIn was seen more as a resume factory, or, that's where you put your information out when you're trying to get a job, things like that. That's kind of how it started. And because of that, it turned into this solid professional platform, social media platform, where businesses are on and business professionals are on there engaging. And we don't do a lot of fluff, right? We might drop a little, personal stuff or something, a little bit, but that's not even remotely 1% of what's on LinkedIn. What's on LinkedIn are people trying to share information they think that would be helpful to you in a professional aspect. Federal buyers are that same way, and that's what we'll talk about in a few minutes. So when you go on to LinkedIn, it's really important to understand. Today, I'm trying to give you tips about how to find federal buyers on LinkedIn. I don't want you to ruin your relationships right from the start by approaching them kind of in the wrong way. We don't want to spam these people. We want to find people we think would be good for networking. I literally ignored like 15 different requests this week alone, not because I'm uppity and I don't want these, who are you to reach out to me? I don't care if you reach out to me blind. That's totally cool. But because I could see that they're just reaching out using AI or automated tools. Neil, you've got such a strong background. I'd love to connect. It's like, well, okay, there's no value there. And so with your federal buyers, you're going to be wanting to do that same thing, is making sure that you're giving them a reason to see that they could connect with you, that they could begin to build a relationship with you. And this comes to visibility. Visibility on LinkedIn is a two-way street, is what I call it. The reason I say this is because when I or you want to go out and find federal buyers on LinkedIn, I'm going out there, I'm looking across LinkedIn, and I'll show you that in a second. I'm finding people. I'm like, ooh, look at that one. That looks like a good connection. That looks like a good person I'd love to meet, etc. Well, while I'm doing that, they have visibility to me, right? I'm looking at their profiles and they're looking at my profiles because they know I'm looking at them. I'll show you in a second how you can see that if you don't know, but they can see that I just looked at their profile. And that begins to make them aware of you. It's one of the first things you could do to start getting engaged with somebody, is to just look at their profile, and there's an awareness. And if you're not tracking on this, you should track on this, because you want to see who's looking at your profile. Maybe there's federal buyers looking at you that you haven't tracked on, that you do want to track. So here's my main tip for this slide. When I'm talking about visibility as a two-way street, you need to look your best, right? So if you're going to go out and try to start looking at all these different profiles, and potentially they're going to start looking back at you, there's a couple of basic things that you can fix to make sure that you represent you and your company the best. The first one is a headline. And the headline is what you have right below your profile picture. And I'll show you that in a minute. But basically, it should be your elevator hook, not your elevator pitch, right? The elevator pitch is what you say on the ride up the elevator. The elevator hook, which many people forget, is how you can even get invited on the elevator in the first place to give your elevator pitch, right? And so your headline is, many times I have said, have a headline in here, but I might say something in my headline like, we help small businesses have success in the federal market. It's like, okay, well, I'm a small business. I might want to reach out to Neil. I'm in the federal market. And then reverse that and go, I'm not even in the federal market. I do real estate in the residential side. He's not somebody I really need to connect with, right? They don't hate me. They just don't feel like there's any real networking need there at the moment. So your headline is used all across the internet. I'll show you that in a little bit, or all across LinkedIn. It's what's saying who you are, your name and your headline. The second group that I have here that you want to fix on visibility is your photo. Make sure you have a basic professional photo. I don't really care that it's professional quality. It just needs to, it could even literally be this if I wanted like something like this without the background behind me. But what you don't want it to be is me and my buddy like here, and I got him cut off. There's basic things like that. By the way, Cecilia, my sister, is in here, and Cecilia's been supporting the chamber, sometimes as a volunteer, sometimes as paid, depending on where we're at. And but she runs her own LinkedIn business. If you're looking for LinkedIn support, don't talk to her for free support. You can read her content, but she's talking about a lot of this stuff as well. The other one is your banner, right? Right when somebody lands on your profile, your banner should say something. We do this, this, and this. Don't let it be empty. Make sure it has something that people can quickly go, oh, you're a data analytic type company. I want to learn more about you. And that's my final bullet. Make sure your profile, and you don't have to spend a lot of time on this, but make sure your profile says something about you and about your company that is aligned with what you're trying to sell. This is a problem sometimes people have, is that they're trying to go to the meeting to be able to have sales calls, things like that, but their profile looks like they're trying to get a job. Think about your LinkedIn profile in a way that you're trying to attract a buyer, not you're trying to attract a boss. Okay, so let's talk really quickly about how federal buyers use LinkedIn. And you can come up with your own ideas. I just came up with 5 to give you this idea that they're not just sitting there waiting for me to call, right? That's not their main thing. One of the reasons they're out there is they're staying visible. I think this is an even bigger issue now with a lot of people in the federal market, federal employees worried about whether they're going to be transitioning to a new job, et cetera. That's something really important for them to be visible to potential new employers later. And sometimes the new employer is just another agency that they're going to. And that's something else, right? Is part of their annual performance is making sure they're engaging in whatever their profession is. So staying visible to their industry and their market, network, et cetera. The second one is building their network. So meeting more people within the federal government itself and growing that network. And for a lot of us, networking with industry, right? Am I reaching out to these people who potentially are talking about things that could relate to my agency and what I'm trying to do? That's why they might network in particular. If I'm looking at Graham, for example, and I talked about Jay Madigan yesterday, and I'll throw another shout out to him today. But I was talking about how he's doing this thing called Wadar, which is basically a Roomba on a lake that collects data instead of dirt, right? But that agency, those federal buyers, they might be trying to look for innovative scientists and engineers who are giving them more ways to protect their water resources than what they've been doing the last 10 years, right? And so they're building their network. They're following thought leaders like Jay out there, seeing what he might be sharing, either creating or what he might engage with, right? If Jay's engaging with something that somebody else wrote or another company did, then these people who are on LinkedIn, federal buyers, are able to kind of see that as well. That's the beauty of social content out there. Another part that I really like that federal agencies do, and they're really starting to step it up a fair amount. The Navy does a good job at this, but sharing agency information, putting information out there about their priorities, their challenges that they're running into. Something as simple as they just did a briefing deck, they could put it out. One of the pieces of content I share more than anything else is agency information, because they haven't really got a good rhythm yet on doing that. But I have noticed in the last 6-12 months, they have, and a lot more agencies are sharing information. A lot more people, individual buyers, are sharing stuff out saying, hey, really excited. I was participating in writing this document. Love to get this out for my peers in industry to see. And then the last one is constantly reviewing potential vendors. If we're talking about federal buyers in particular on LinkedIn, they can come on to LinkedIn. They can review us and see who we are, see who we're engaged with. One of my favorite things is if a federal buyer looks in, they can see that maybe they're connected with 200 or 400 or 2,000 people that I'm connected with, that they're connected with, and there's a commonality out there. But they can also see your wins. If you're shouting out on LinkedIn, hey, we just won this contract. Well, it could sit at FPDS hidden forever, or on CBARs until they finally want to do a review. But if it's on LinkedIn, now they're becoming aware of who's doing what for other agencies. And that's a really big thing out there for them. So these are just some ways federal buyers are engaged out there, and they will keep doing more of this. This is a big deal out there. All right, so I really quickly want to thank our sponsors for the live trainings that we do. I do these live trainings. I kind of stop my day, did live trainings, and then begin my day again with my customers. But these people are supporting our lives, and I want to say thank you to them. So Graham does staffing and ASL, or American Sign Language Services. KZO does, and I think KZO's in here today as well. They did a really good shout out at what they do. But federal finance and contracts subject matter expert. I was talking about anything related to the pricing and billing side with the government, but definitely check them out. And then Steel Toed is a cybersecurity firm specializing in CMMC. And finally, GovCon in a Box, right? We help you find and win federal opportunities. So check us out on govconinabox.com. Okay, so let's go in and do a quick demo of LinkedIn and show you where I can show you steps that I take to find federal buyers. I didn't write them down here. So as I go through, just take out a notepad and write it down yourself, or if somebody's feeling generous, maybe you put it into the chat, like step 1, step 2. But I thought it was pretty convenient for me that, oh, well, this is funny. So Dave Waltz, who's probably on here, was one of the posts. And then here's my sister, Cecilia. That was coincidental. It just refreshed and came up. But here's what I do. Step 1, I'm on my homepage, right? Just clicking on that. All I do is come into search and I click on it and I hit enter. That's it. When I do that, it takes me to this search page. And what I'm looking for, it's funny, you can go back and forth between people and companies, right? So for the moment, I'm going to use companies. And I'm going to go through several of these where you can see it. So you can see already, like, let's just take the Army for 1 second. I'll open that. If I open up the Army, I can come in here and I can see it says 10,000 plus employees, but I know it has a ton. But what I like to look at, and I'm trying to see, sometimes they have related pages. For some reason, these guys don't have a lot of affiliated pages like the Navy does. But let me just skip, right? So I'm doing this live. I want you to see it takes time to kind of do it. But let me pick something better that I like PEO Digital. If I take this one for the Navy, right? So I'm pulling up PEO Digital. I'm going to pull up another one, U.S. Army PEO Enterprise, which is kind of digital, if you will. It's all the military stuff. So I'm looking into the Navy and put this in perspective, right? I'm trying to find federal buyers who are on LinkedIn and tied to the Navy. And actually more deeply in the Navy, I want them to be working at PEO Digital here, which is really the area that I want to get into, but it's a program executive office. And so if I come in here, I can click on, I can see already that I'm connected with 3 people in there, but here I can see the people. So if I click on this, I'm able to come in, and I can't remember what that number was there a minute ago. Hold on one second. Got something in my way. But I can start coming down and just start browsing all these people, so 7 pages. So there's like 70 people I've got in here. If I go over to PEO Enterprise, right, it's saying 1 to 5,000. LinkedIn used to have a number that sat right up here, but it's not there for some reason. And it doesn't really matter to me at the moment. But if I come in here, I can start looking. It's funny, like I want to meet this person, right? Stacey Watson. I might try to figure out, does anybody know her? How can I reach out? But if I come down here, I can see I have 15 pages. And so 15 pages is a huge amount. But I might be looking for inside of here, I might be looking for contract, anybody related like with the word contract in their title or something. So part of the problem with that kind of search is I'm looking at past contract. So let me get rid of that. And I could come over here and say all filters. And I know I'm moving really fast. I want you to go back and explore it. But if I look at, let me scroll down for a minute here. I'm scrolling down. I'm looking for these guys. The title to be contract. I don't know if it'll work, but so if I show results, well, so I'm not seeing what I'm looking for there, which is fine. I'll back up for a second and I might try something different. Like let's say, let me get rid of PEO Digital here. Let me go back to home and just start from the same way. Okay, fresh search. I'm right here. I want to find people. Let me go into people here. So if I'm looking at people, let's use a different example. Like let's say I'm looking for a small business specialist. Depends on whether they have their titles updated. By the way, not every person in the federal government is on LinkedIn and using it. But if I come down here, I can see there's 100 pages. So there's 100 pages, and right away I'm bringing up people from small business specialists, et cetera. And I see NASA. So let's take a stab at NASA as an example. So if I do NASA, so I can go to different places where NASA has different pages, like they have centers. But I'm just staying at the top level for a minute and say show results. So if I come in here, now I'm looking at a bunch of NASA type folks who are on here. 26 pages, still a ton. And that's a lot. One of the things I noticed, though, it had a specialist. So let me just put this, like highlight it, and it might shrink it a lot less. So there you go, 3 pages of people who are small business specialists out there or doing like small business jobs, etc. And this is just one way to start looking at it. Let me show you one more way, just as I'm watching my time. I'll come back in here. Here's another way that I like doing this in if I'm trying to search for people, right? I'm trying to find federal buyers that are out there, and it depends on what you're looking for. So for me, I wanted to show you a different one. If I say, well, actually, let's just do a, contract officer. Is it contract officer or contracting? So we'll see them both ways. But if I'm looking for contract officer, so here, branch chief at GSA, right? This is perfect. I'm trying to do stuff at GSA. And if I come down, you can see the number of profiles, 2, 4, 6, 8, 10 per page. And it looks like there's 100 pages. So LinkedIn was smart enough to put contract officer in and others in. So I can come over to the company, though. Let's just do Army as an example and show results. When I'm trying to find people who are buyers out here, here's 35 pages. So instead of 100, I've got 35 pages. And you start finding a lot of people out here. This is how I find contracting officers that are working. And some of it you'll start getting in. You're like, oh, that person's not really fitting in there. But if I take, like Mark Williams, I don't know who it is, but contract oversight at the Army, he's not that engaged. But this is how I can start finding other names that are out there. If I showed you this one here, where I might not have ever found the branch chief, but because I came into LinkedIn, I was able to find Sarah, and then I can start learning more. Like if I click in here, this is another person I can see. They're not doing much on LinkedIn. So for them, I might just be getting her name and then beginning to find her on Google, etc. But if I am, let me come back here really quick. If I am finding the people I want, then I want to engage with them. And so there's some simple steps you can do to engage with these people. LinkedIn, when you go in and you're looking at that, that's part of the process that I call targeting. You're just trying to find people's names. I did that in like 5 minutes, right? So I'm bouncing around, I'm showing you stuff. And I also didn't have any particular need that I was looking for. But if I had a need, like I mentioned with Jay, and Jay's trying to get into public works directorates or something, he could start doing those LinkedIn searches. And if he finds them on LinkedIn and he finds that they're active on LinkedIn, not overly active, but just like logging on or something, then he can start doing things of value. And I put 4 tips for you here that you can check out as we head out of today's training. The first thing is, if Jay is seeing something about water that somebody is posting related to the Army, he can go in and post a comment in there. And I say post a comment with value. Don't just say something like, hey, great job or excellent, right? I get a ton of that in there. And that doesn't add any value to the post at all. You might as well just give it a thumbs up and leave it at that. But if you're going to put a comment that sits there and says, I loved your 3 bullets, and number 3 really struck me because I've seen it over here. Or I love your 5 tips, and here's a 6th one I think that would add more value, add additional value. It doesn't take away what the person wrote. I'm adding to it. That's adding value. The second thing that you can do is give a thumbs up or a thumb up. I don't know how to say that, but basically going in on content and you're saying, hey, I really like this. And one thing you can do is on LinkedIn, if you hover above the like button or whatever, it'll change to a couple other emojis, and you can choose insightful, like with a light bulb, where you're saying, hey, I really found this helpful, or funny. Use those other ones as it fits in there, and you can distinguish yourself a little bit from the other people who are putting it. But a thumbs up is a great way to start early engagement. You just say, hi, I'm here. I liked your stuff, right? And people who post content, especially if they're not getting many engagements, they're going to follow every single person who did this. This is how I reached out to many senior leaders within the military and the civilian agencies by just engaging with their content for a few weeks or a few months, right? And they begin to know who I am, so that when I reach out afterwards, they're open to me. I've warmed up that relationship, if you will. The last one I had on the first 3 bullets is repost without thoughts. You can share my post by putting your own comments, which breaks the thread, or you can repost it with no comments, and it keeps everybody from your network coming back to my one post. And so everybody is in there. That is a really valuable thing to do. Just remember, there's following somebody and connecting. Always follow somebody first, build the relationship, then connect. The only reason you connect is if you have content that you're sharing that would be valuable to them. But if all you're doing is consuming their content, a follow is more than good enough. Okay, so let me just wrap up here. I'm out of time. I want you to remember these 3 things as you head away today. First thing is look good on LinkedIn before you go looking for federal buyers. Second thing, find and then follow first those people that you want to build a relationship with. Do that research I was showing you today. Spend an hour, spend 2 hours, and then start following these people and engaging with their content. And when you engage, that third bullet, make sure you're adding value. Hopefully you found the training valuable. Don't forget to go to tomorrow's training about visibility. And if you're a company doing 2 million plus and you're looking for support, we've got a BD Accelerator workshop. Love to talk to you about. Put workshop in the chat. Remember, government contracting, it's not a secret. It's just a process. I will see you in the next training.